I'm Brian Fish with the Bull Moose Network, and today I am joined by Andrew with Aid in Milan. And today we're going to be discussing what this organization does to support its local community and what organizations like this mean for Michiganders. Andrew, thank you for joining me.
Certainly, happy to get some exposure for the services that we're providing throughout the Milan area community.
Excellent. So I'm going to start with the first one just by asking if you could introduce yourself and your specific involvement with Aid in Milan.
Sure. So my name's Andrew Felder. I am recently the executive director here at Aid in Milan. We're a community service organization that has pantry and direct aid services that are provided to people in need across the greater Milan area.
Excellent. So what inspires you to get involved with this particular organization, and how do you see its role in addressing economic inequality?
Um, well, I've been working in nonprofits for about the last 4 years now in one capacity or another, and this was a continuation of that. And it really, part of the reason that I'm here is because I really believe in the actions of community organizations and the role that they have to better the position of families within community. I think that the impact that is most salient happens at the local level. And so I really wanted to get involved in a way that helps people at the local level.
So kind of like a bottom-up sort of
Yeah,
approach to the
very
grassroots.
much a grassroots approach. Yeah. And I think that regarding your second question, to speak on our role in fighting income inequality, we certainly take an approach towards trying to combat generational poverty at Aid in Milan and prevent poverty before it happens by identifying some of the key sources and causes. Some of that is revealed in our direct aid programs. We do a nominal amount of eviction abatement, but also like for utility shutoffs. If your electric or water bills are unpaid and you're about to have your electricity or water shut off, we can step in and try and assist with those bills, so long as the impact that we're making is going to have an appreciable difference. You know, of course, all resources are limited within our capacity to be able to help, and that exists for all nonprofits within the work that we're trying to do. We help our clients within the greater Milan area, but anyone can come and use our pantry, which is totally free and open to the public. If coming to get food relieves financial stress from you and your family, to be able to cover other costs and other bills because of the rising cost of living, then we invite you to come out and get some food to help relieve that stress from your family, so that you're able to take care of other bills that you have in other ways. So trying to offer that in a minimally restrictive way, where there is no income requirement to use the pantry, sort of prevents poverty before it becomes a real issue by starting to combat some of those increased cost of living items, like food and essentials. So
Excellent. And I did actually want to touch on the pantry here,
sure.
because I know you said that it is open for anyone to come in. How is this usually supported? How does that usually get off the ground?
So we have a very experienced pantry manager that operates it, and we have volunteers that help out. We would not be able to be open if it was not for our volunteers. We believe very strongly in volunteerism here at Aid in Milan. That accompanies our grassroots support, and we try and be no bigger than we need to be because we look to the community to fill gaps within the community. We are a facilitator to help the community help itself. That's really what we're about here. So our pantry serves about 100 families or about 500 individuals every week. And like I said, anyone is welcome to come by and use those services. But the pantry is funded through grants and operational support, also with a tremendous partnership that we have with food gatherers out of Ann Arbor, where we get most of our food from.
Okay.
We wouldn't be able to be in business if it wasn't for their support, and we are part of a food security network with them throughout all of Washtenaw County, and so we are very much tied into the other pantries and community service organizations that exist throughout Washtenaw County. And of course, Milan splits both Washtenaw and Monroe County, so we're trying to build partnerships in Monroe as well um, to serve all residents within the community. But it allows us to get our ears closer to the ground for what issues everyone is encountering. Recently, we're seeing, unfortunately, some effects that are happening at the federal level. Such as the USDA programs being under threat. A third of our food comes from the USDA commodities program. Any threat to the SNAP benefits is going to have an increase in utilization. Any effect to a federal shutdown or federal layoffs, the Milan prison is out here, and those employees are usually do pretty well. Usually they're donors to the pantry, but anyone who loses their job suddenly and unexpectedly, all of a sudden is in a position of financial stress. And back in the government shutdown of I think it was 2015 or whatever it was, we did see an influx of federal employees needing to utilize those services, and we try and be here for them. But of course, that puts an increased strain on the resources of the organization, and then of course, on top of all of that, we have tariffs and increased food costs. So it's just, there's a whole lot of uncertainty that we're trying to respond to with our community partners and our local partners to some of the instability that is occurring at the federal government right now.
Excellent. So with that in mind, how does a system like this with mutual aid, how does that differ from traditional charity models? And why do you think that corporations often prefer charity over a mutual aid type of situation?
Well, I'd want to know, first of all, what you mean by mutual aid.
So a network like this that offers, community-based support, where it's
Mm-hmm.
mostly volunteer-based,
Mm-hmm.
where it's not necessarily driven by a specific, organization. It's more local, hyper-local. Like I mentioned before the interview, I interviewed the Michigan Mutual Aid Coalition
Mm-hmm.
and how they do similar things, but obviously they're a newer startup, and
Yeah.
2020 was when they founded. So they often do similar things. They go and help people who are food insecure.
Mm-hmm.
They help provide different types of things like rent support. And historically, mutual aid networks actually help things like the Teamster strikes, like the one in Minneapolis from 1934. So issues like that, you don't normally see a traditional charity, backing. How does that affect with mutual aid for you guys here in Milan?
You mean in terms of the programs that we offer?
Mm-hmm.
Because I don't know if you'd consider us a traditional charity or not. I mean, we do receive funding as a 501c3 nonprofit.
Yeah.
We do have some full-time, we do have some paid staff, but mostly, we try and stay with a very volunteer and community-oriented model.
Yes.
To be able to, I mean, like I said, we would not be able to run the facility if it wasn't for the volunteers who are coming in to help. And those are all community members who are reaching out to help out their community. But we're very gracious for the support that we get from all of our partners to be able to provide the services that we're able to provide.
And that is essentially what I was meaning.
Yeah.
It's more local based. It's not so much a a nationwide type of thing where
Yeah.
it's more hyper focused on a specific area.
Yeah.
Because Michigan Mutual Aid, they're focused on Wayne County,
Mm-hmm.
or you have East Side that's focused on just the east side of Detroit. We have a Grand Rapids one over there. So usually when I refer to mutual aid, or how I understand it from my research, it was the hyper local
Mm-hmm.
type of organizations that, yes, they're nonprofits, they're 501(c)s, but they usually operate primarily on
Yeah, we're
volunteers.
very definitely a community-involved, community-oriented nonprofit that is regional in focus. That we're not that it's not some big national thing.
Yeah.
There is a specific community that we are trying to serve within southeastern Michigan, and we gather support from that community, and that support then turns around to serve that same community. And within the food distribution network, within the food security network of food gatherers, all of the different community pantries in resource centers sort of serve within their own communities. We're in very close partnership with some of the pantries out in Manchester or Saline or Dexter, Chelsea. But within each of those communities, there is an organization that serves that sole community. And then within that larger food security network, of course, we all are partners with Food Gatherers that serves Washtenaw County, and then they in turn are part of are regional within a program of like Feeding America. So as you go up there, there is sort of a structure to the support that is helping come down support organizations like ours. But I think it's important to have a local distribution network that is on the ground, interacting with the residents and clients that we're trying to support day in, day out.
Absolutely. And I know that with rural areas, because you mentioned Manchester, Saline, I know Saline's not truly more part of the rural areas, they're more of like a smaller type of city, but
Mm-hmm.
they're out here in the country type of area. And I know that mutual aid networks, aid networks like this, they tend to have a little bit of a harder time to get their footing in those types of areas. Would you think that's because of just the distance between folks, or what would you think is the reasoning behind more rural areas having difficulty with these types of networks?
Mm. Well, I've been really impressed at the amount of support that we've received. I'm newer to the organization myself. I started the position in early December, so I'm the new guy here.
Okay.
But as I came in the door for our holiday gifting program, especially, we
Yeah.
were looking at all of that's a program essentially where we match families with groups or organizations of donors that purchase presents for the holidays for families that we connect them with.
Yeah.
And so we facilitate that entire program. And that really we wouldn't be able to do it without the support of community individuals and organizations. And so I think that's probably another example of ways in which the community is able to support itself. And I think that Milan is very active and does a lot for its size in terms of stepping up to provide those services. So I've been very impressed. I think sometimes you can encounter situations within rural areas about, regarding a lack of service availability or a lack of service availability within a reasonable transportation area. Of course, we always have transportation issues. We have clients that need to reschedule their food pickups because they don't have a ride that day, and that's we've launched programs to try and combat that as well. To try and in the past we've partnered with local businesses to try and repair their cars. We offer gas vouchers in partnership with a locally owned gas station to try and combat some of those barriers. We've done a bike and backpacks program for some of our unhoused individuals who may not have vehicles to try and give them some alternative towards transportation. But if you only have a bicycle in a rural area and all of the critical services are not within a walkable or accessible distance, you have a real problem.
Absolutely.
And so I think that transportation really can be an issue. I know that there is some conversation within the city and at the city about getting bus routes from Ann Arbor to allow residents to get to their medical appointments.
Yeah.
Up at U of M or wherever that happens to be. So I think that we're still in conversations of other ways that we can overcome these obstacles within the community and identify what they are. We will be releasing a community needs assessment either later this month or early next month to try and ascertain some of the critical needs within the community and identify where any existing gaps are. So that we're able to properly fill them. And that, I think, will help educate our organization and inform our board on what actions and steps are needed to adjust our service models in a way in which we can deliver our programs in the best and most accessible way possible to the clients that we're trying to serve. So,
Excellent.
yeah.
I know you mentioned that obviously with this one being mostly in Washtenaw County and working with the networks here, with Milan being split to Monroe, like you mentioned. What kind of actions or what organizations are you looking at that you're trying to build these connections with to Monroe, so that way you can expand into that area as well?
Sure. So I'm a Monroe native. I've lived in Monroe my whole life. Not just Monroe County, but the city of Monroe. And we are under the United Way for Southeast Michigan, which used to be the United Way for Washtenaw County. And we are within Food Gatherers, which are both Washtenaw County-based organizations. But of course, we are in our community foundation is the GMACF, the Greater Milan Area Community Foundation, which is part of the Monroe Community Foundation. Okay. So in that respect, we're part of Monroe. So we've been reaching out to Monroe-based organizations and partners to see what services that we are able to integrate or collaborate on, such as the Monroe County RSVP program to try and recruit some volunteers. There's other partners and nonprofits, but until something materializes there, we want to, we want to ensure that we release that information as it becomes available and not prematurely. So, I mean, there's definitely, I think, some opportunities for expansion and partnership on both sides of the county line. 60% of our clients live in Washtenaw County, about 40% live in Monroe County, which is about the split because the county line goes right through the city of Milan and the Milan area school district. If you look out onto the lake and look south, that's the county boundary. So we are just over, like by several dozen feet maybe, the county line for between Monroe and Washtenaw, where we sit right now. So having relationships on both sides of that boundary, I think, is important. Because it separates, Food Gatherers and Gleaners, or United Way for Southeast Michigan versus United Way for Monroe, Lenawee County United Way. And then the Ann Arbor Area Community Foundation, which we do apply for support, of the Greater Milan Area Community Foundation. So trying to know all the resources and partners that exist for our entire service area, I think, is very important. And it just means that we get to have twice as many friends.
There you go.
So,
in that same spirit, this is actually along the lines of what I've asked the previous one I spoke with. Building up more of a larger network is always seeming to be the goal because it can help more people in that regard. So, with the idea of knowing that we have so many other mutual aid networks, operating independently out in Wayne County, out in Washtenaw here, up towards Grand Rapids, even in northwestern Michigan. What does it look like to possibly even see about kind of connecting and uniting all these, even under an organization like United Way, where you'd all be able to work and operate together to expand even further to help more folks in that regard?
Well, I think that if you look at partnerships and collaborations like the Food Security Network under Food Gatherers, that you do see collaborations like that of we each have a footprint and play a role within this larger picture. And not any of us are everything to everybody, but we, I mean, if you look at our front lobby, you can see a number of different resources from other partnering organizations that we collaborate with. On our front door, you can see hotlines to 211 for people to get assistance. Maybe if we're closed outside of our business hours, or if they need immediate services, or just to see what other resources are out there. If people are contacting us regarding, housing issues, or permanent supportive housing, or mental health services, or anything like that, we want to get you in touch at least with any resources that we are able within the community. But some of the other organizations that are out there exist and specialize in those particular areas. And so we try and partner with those entities that specialize in those areas and fill the gap that exists within what we feel is within our service area and mission. And I think that really is what the community needs assessment is going to be there and inform our organization in determining where gaps are, so we know where we need to be to meet the needs of our clients.
Excellent. Now, I know you touched a little bit on like the issues with federal firings and cuts to different types of programs. Could you elaborate on any of the any effects that we're currently feeling? 'Cause I know it's a little bit tumultuous right now with a lot of that.
Yeah, there's a lot of uncertainty. I mean, all of us were sort of on grant webinars last week of, hey, all federal grants were going to be canceled, and then they were uncanceled, and we're just all trying to keep up with everything that's going on, and there's a lot of uncertainty right now. I don't know that all of those effects have fully been felt yet. Sometimes they take a little bit longer to trickle down, but for example, I know that at our recent network meeting within food gatherers, we were sharing some stories of how existing outcuts that have already happened have started affecting some of the nonprofit partners that we collaborate with in very serious ways. And there's some stories there, but I'll leave those stories to be told by those organizations. I think right now the thing that we are most worried about is there seems to be a lack of clarity and a lot of uncertainty circulating around what might happen, and we're all just trying to keep in front of it, to not let those changes affect the people that we serve.
Just kind of bracing for impact, essentially.
You got it. Yeah, that's a pretty good way to put it. So.
Yeah. Now, I know this is more of a hypothetical because it's still under proposal by the UAW, but it's been backed by a couple other public unions as well. And it was back in 2023 the UAW floated the idea of doing a general strike on May 1st of 2028.
Mm-hmm.
This would allow, obviously, for folks to get prepared, but also it would line up with when their contracts ended. With the historical coupling of organizations like labor unions and aid networks such as Aid in Milan or mutual aid coalitions, what role do you see the ones in Michigan taking in an event such as that?
Oh, I'm not sure how that would affect us directly, apart from maybe an increase in utilization of our services by, if people were temporarily out of work. I could see more people needing to come and use the pantry if they didn't have a reliable paycheck to fall back on.
Yep.
But there's not any explicit agreements that we have with any labor organizations, and of course we're not, we're barred from a lot of advocacy that we're able to do as a 501c3. So I don't know that I don't know that there's anything explicit there, but we welcome all members of the community that feel that they're in need, whether that's a temporary situation or not, and we are happy to serve everyone in any way that we are able.
I'm actually glad that you brought up that, because what type of, can you explain the type of stipulations that bar you from certain types of advocacy being a 501c?
Well, I'd need an attorney to answer that question, which I am not.
No, understandable.
Yeah, but the being a nonprofit organization in a 501c3 designation, prohibits you from certain advocacy activities. So what they are, I'm going to leave that to the attorneys. What I know is that our services are available to everybody.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, if there are events happening within our community that that are going to affect people and affect people's pocketbooks, we stand at the ready to be able to be in a position to help where we can. That's what I can say. So
that's all we can say. That's all we can. So I do want to thank you again for sitting down with me today and actually doing the interview here. Thank everybody for watching. This is Andrew with Aid in Milan. Otherwise, have a good day. Eyes open, voices loud.